We can talk about, everyone that I'm trying to study right now that are what I would consider successful or are kind of, making an impact. I always ask, what's your morning routine? And there's usually something that helps them. You would call it noise. My book, I call it chatter. Keep that out of what's going on.
Good morning. This is Great More with the Coleman Group podcast. Very excited today to have my friend Bruce Pulver on the podcast. Bruce is author, speaker. He's written a tremendous book titled Above the Chatter, Our Words Matter. And it's just a very powerful way that we should look at our words. So Bruce is a wordsmith. He believes in the power of the words, and I'm so excited to share his story and philosophy with you all today. Bruce, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So, just a quick introduction. So, you've got over 30 years of experience as sales client relationship executive. You're a father, husband, and author of Above the Chatter, Our Words Matter. Powerful words that change my world forever. Bruce shares your personal experiences and how impactful your words are and have been on the ups and downs of your life in your professional journey. So just kind of walk me through how this book came to you, what it means to you to be able to share it, and I look forward to the conversation.
Sure, and thank you very much again. So, the book really started as a journal. There was a time several years ago where I had to transition professionally. I was, as we call that these days, a RIF, reduction in force.
Reduction, that's so personal,
yes,
isn't it?
Very much so. and I've coined another term. I called it, I was RIF tired. Not retired, but RIF tired.
RIF tired, yes.
And but joking about that today, at that moment it was devastating. It was not expected. 25 years or so with the company. Expecting that was going to be where I would continue my career. Right. And so I call that a BAM moment. It was a time in my life where the day before that happened, everything appeared to be fine. Work was great, so forth and so on. Then all of a sudden, an event happened that changed my life. So during the next day, actually the morning after this reduction in force, I woke up and in my mind was pounding a single word. Okay. I believe it was filtered to me. It came to me. We can talk more about that later. But that single word was that I had to be strong. I didn't really know what that meant at the moment, except I stared at the word and it kept pounding in my head. So I wrote it down. And I wrote it down vertically. Okay. And immediately, just looking at the letters, a message came to me about what strong meant. It meant to S, stand, T, tall, R, remain, O, optimistic, N was now, and G was go for it. Okay. So it absolutely froze me in my tracks because I didn't really know why, how it came to me, but it did, and I just had a pen and paper next to the bed and wrote it down. But what I did with that was I tried to find something that day to be strong about. Okay. Again, under the context of, your employment has just ended. Everything that was basically consistent and not comfortable, but consistent in my world, had just shifted. So that started a journaling process that continued for over 400 consecutive mornings. Wow. At the same time, a new word would come into my mind, and I got very expectant for it each morning. The journal then became a conversation with friends. Hey, another word came today. Bruce, would you text it to me? Would you share it with me? Getting it out there on social media. And it just became this infectious process of capturing these words and then realizing how much of an impact they had on my day. If I could stay focused on a word like great, get ready, expect a terrific day. Great. Okay, so it's going to be great. I don't know what's going to be great about it, but if I focused on trying to find that, it set my mind in a place that was not burying the scenario I was going through, but it helped me focus on looking at the best of a situation. Now, I was able to find another job in 30 days or so that was worked through that pretty well and pretty comfortably, and that worked well. But the writing continued, and that ended up being, a book, a message, a journal, and has led to a lot of other things.
No, that's great. So in your book, the curious thing. So talk to me about, and I know you mentioned it on your TED Talk, but how did you come to write these words in this fashion, but then also kind of look at them at both the negative aspect of the word, but then also the positive aspect? I mean, how do you think that came about?
Well, so maybe I'll take it back even further.
Okay.
From my birth.
Okay.
I mentioned it in the book that the day my mother went into labor for me, in a major medical trauma. She had what is termed in medical world is a dissecting aortic aneurysm during labor.
Wow.
So effectively, her heart, the aorta, the blood leaving her heart, basically exploded.
Okay.
Without it actually bleeding out, but there was a very big opportunity for that to explode and happen. And once they gave birth to me, she spent the next 30 days fighting for her life.
Wow.
Through 3 experimental surgeries of repairing a dissection as well as an open heart surgery.
Wow.
In that time, that was very experimental. There wasn't an open heart like you think of today.
Right.
And there were 2 surgeons who were visiting from Tulane University up in the Northeast who had just perfected aortic valve replacement. They were called in. They went to work on her.
Okay.
The fast forward on that is that she made a full recovery, the first or second person to live longer than 72 hours after this event. And I was raised in a family where she was grateful for every morning she woke up. Okay, so there was a mindset and a atmosphere in our family that she was a very positive person about being here. My father was really the wordsmith.
Okay.
He was a crossword puzzle nut. He wrote plays, and he used a lot of analogies in plays and characters' names in plays. Like the sheriff in the town of this play was Law and Order.
Yeah, that's funny.
So he had like 15 or 20 of these names. So I had no idea why those 2 influences were in my life until I think I started writing the word strong. And that was sort of forging, okay, both of my parents had passed. I still think of them every day, like we all do. But this was something that sort of fused Dad's love of words with my mother's outlook on life. And maybe I just gravitated to that as this is the one rope that can pull me out of going into a hole.
No, I love it. So that makes a lot of sense with how you've written the book. But I do really like that the way that you take what could seemingly be negative words, and then turn that into positive. So talk about that a little bit. How we can take a problem or hurdle or challenge and then turn it into an opportunity.
Well, I think a lot of that comes from hindsight for me, and maybe I've learned it through that side. But one of the things that I talk about, or one of the words I used, and we're all going through it, right? My bam moment of my layoff, or someone starting a new job, or being accepted into college and moving to a new town and starting a college, is all around the word of change. And change is very, very, it's constant. It's always happening, right? Sometimes we drive it, and sometimes, we're on the bus, not driving the bus.
That's right.
So we can make some choices, and I do believe this is a learned thing. It's not a light switch.
Right.
I deal with it every day. Is how are you going to deal with something that you may not control, but you have to incorporate into your life? For me, it was the job, right? But so change, and you can look at change 2 ways. I talk about this in my TED Talk. You can look at change with an attitude of apprehension or fear. And you can just look at those 5, the letters of change, right? Can't handle another negative, gut-wrenching experience. You could say, oh my God, here comes change. I can't handle this. It's negative. It's gut-wrenching. I don't want to do it. And that will have one set of your approach to the change. Or you can try to focus on that word a different way, change, which is circumstances have altered, now get engaged. The change is still there, but it's a mindset approach to, okay, if the circumstances altered, I've got to now get engaged. That I will approach my next step in dealing with that change with a different approach. Maybe a lift in my step. Maybe okay, here's what I can do versus here's what's changed, in my world.
Right.
So it's not a light switch. It's just something that through this writing and through probably my upbringing, we've had to deal with a lot of change, and that's just sort of a way to think about it, to put yourself in the right direction.
So effectively, I mean, you've programmed a way to look at problems in a positive light. So talk about that mindset of why that's important. What is our typical human response?
Yeah.
Right? Based on fear and the unknown, and so oftentimes that can lead a lot of challenging, probably not beneficial or positive statements.
Yeah, I mean, so one example might be an athletic type of example, right? Because there's a lot of this science and application in the field of athletics or the field of the arts where there's a performance aspect to something, right? So, I mean, as simple as, shooting a foul shot probably. If you think you're going to miss it, you may make it, but your mind is almost programming you to fail. If you walk in with the approach of I've got this, or a tennis as a return to serve, this is my ball, this is my court, I got this ball, and this person's pounding you with high velocity serves. If you say I've got this, or you're approaching it with the expectant outcome, that's one way that I think we can incorporate that. You just try to make the best of a situation, and there's ways to do that. I think mentally. To try to put yourself in that position mentally, the more times you're in a challenging situation.
Right. Well, and it's I often tell folks the future's made up, right? I mean, it's a story we're making.
Yeah.
When you're sitting on the free throw line and you're saying, I'm going to miss this shot, you don't really know if you're going to miss it, but you're making the story up.
Right.
So you're giving folks the tool to change the story. To go, I mean, it's made up anyways.
Right.
It hasn't happened.
Right.
So rather than saying I'm going to miss, let's use this as an opportunity to change the story.
Sure. I'm going to nail this interview.
Right.
This job offer is coming to me. Now, it may not.
Right.
But if you go in with your self-confidence, it's contagious. Everything is. Shoulders down and chin down is contagious.
Yeah.
Shoulders back, chin up, large, expecting good things to happen is just a way to approach things.
Right.
And we all have our own experiences, right? So I'm not saying that this is an easy thing. I was very blessed to be raised in a family that did have an outlook of, I call it the golden retriever, right? Never has a bad day.
Yeah.
Now we do. But I mean, it was more geared towards, what can we make out of today versus, oh no, not another. Or, it's hard to say the victim versus the victor because that kind of gets used too much, I think. But how can you make the most of something that might be difficult? The other reverse of that is true as well. Richard Branson says when you're exposed to a new opportunity, say yes immediately, then figure out how, right? So it's the same sort of thing. You've got this opportunity for a job advancement or to start your own entrepreneurial. Say yes to yourself first if that's something that you're passionate about and want to move towards. And the other things tend to fall into place if your mindset is there to do the work it takes.
So why do you think that is? So if we're, I do want to get into the practical stages of your thought process, but that's an interesting point. So if we say yes to an opportunity, if we have a positive mindset, why is it that it's almost like the universe is working to help us, pull us in that direction?
Yeah, I think setting our intentions is a big part of it. There's all kinds of things out there like, the book and the information about The Secret, right? About attracting like tracks alike and those sorts of things. I think that starts inside, though. I mean, take it out of the whole positive versus negative. If you just bought a red car and you're driving around the interstate to and from work, etc., how many red cars do you see?
Yeah.
It's the thing that's on top of mind often.
Right.
So if we choose where we want to put what we want to put in that mindset, that helps just trigger things, in my opinion. And it's been my experience. That's my personal experience.
Well, and that makes and that's I think that's a really great point, is that you just buy a new red even model of the car and you're going to be more aware of those cars. Right. So if you're thinking positive thoughts, then you're going to be more aware of positive people, positive circumstances, positive books, positive messages,
right.
And then hopefully that continues to fuel the thoughts.
Well, you have to look for it, and it's not easy. It's sometimes when I talk about this, it sounds like, oh, well, that's just a mind game, or that's just and quite honestly, there is an aspect to that, is you have to think the way you want your outcome, because it will take you there. The way you think will take you there. Your thoughts, in my experience, have controlled my beliefs, my intentions, my actions, and ultimately my results. Period, up or down. And it's, there's some techniques in how I write words that helped me solidify that. We all have gifts, right? Well, what do you mean I have a gift? I don't have a gift. Look at, especially in the youth age right now, with preteens and teens and middle schoolers and high schoolers, and the comparison, right? The whole, I've got blonde hair, I don't like that. I wish I had brunette hair. I'm 5'10", I wish I were 5'3", and everybody's thinking the other things,
right,
in their mind, right? So as you go through that process and defining kind of what your expectation is or how you feel about things, that is a technique. So, for example, gifts, right? The way I wrote gifts is really simple. We all have them. I call them God-installed features to share. So if you use the word gifts as you've got gifts, and it's your, not obligation, but it's something that's so magical about you, that giving your gifts to others, wow, that just changes the whole mindset and actions, versus, well, I've got nothing. I'm yes, you do. But again, you have to kind of build that from the inside. Right,
you do. And there's, what's interesting is there is a lot of new science around this very thing. There's a lot of metaphysical and physicists that are truly starting to get into the science of attraction, which is certainly interesting. So I think your message is very practical. So when you're talking with especially teens, right? Because they have so much, and I call it noise, but so much mental chatter, right? Because exactly to your point, it could be the socks they're wearing their day, because they're so in comparison mode, right? Everything is about comparison. So what's the practical application? I mean, what's yours is journaling, which I think is a great tool. Journaling, then wordsmithing, and I think there was probably some meditative aspects to that, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what's your process for that?
You mean sort of from a teen perspective, or how would I?
Could be team or individual, right? So if you're sitting down with somebody and they're like, I just had a reduction in force at work. I just had a rift moment, and I'm feeling very consumed by negativity, and I'm not sure where to go from now. I've read your book, and I understand your concept, but when I wake up first thing in the morning, I don't have any positive affirmations.
Right, sure. Right. That's understood. So first of all, in that kind of conversation, it's absolutely, man, I get it. This is devastating, right?
Right.
And what can we do to change that right now? Nothing. It has happened, right? So, no, I mean, I'm not going to tell you to sit down and write a word vertically and come up with your own.
Right.
Although I will encourage that, because I think, but I think sort of recognizing where you are in the situation, right? And saying, okay, but I'm still breathing. There are people that love me. I've made some great contributions. You have to take an inventory of yourself and become your biggest fan internally.
Right.
Confident on the inside, coachable on the outside. That's what I always try to think about, right? I've got this. I can. And you got to start kind of believing that, and it's hard, right? One of the things, though, that I would recommend in that scenario, and I'm growing into this myself, is to establish a very structured morning routine.
Okay, I like that.
And you know, we can talk about. I mean, everyone that I'm trying to study right now that are what I would consider successful or are kind of, you know, making an impact. I always ask, what's your morning routine? And there's usually something that helps them. You know, you would call it noise. My book, I call it chatter. Keep that out of what's going on from the very beginning of the day. So, you know, for me, it's I've adopted a sort of modified several people's input, but for me, it's no snooze button. Okay. When you say you're getting up, you get up. You know? Now, it doesn't have to be 5 o'clock every morning, but it is when you set it, right? Then for the first hour, no technology.
So you don't get up, check Twitter, Facebook, email.
I am learning the process of not doing that.
That's right. I understand.
So there's another thing that I'd love to get back to, and it's called committing to the commitment. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Let's do that.
But so number one is feet hit the floor, or you start your day when the gun goes off, which is the alarm clock or whatever your mechanism is for getting up. And then no technology for the first amount of time that you can, okay? The next thing I do is I write down 5 to 10 things I'm grateful for that day.
Okay.
In my life.
Very practical, yeah.
I'm grateful that I'm breathing. I'm grateful for flowers. It doesn't matter what it is, but you articulate that. And then you write down your goals. What are my goals for today? Today, next week, next month. And they will change, but try to stay consistent on that, because that programs that sense of focus first thing in the day. All right? So no snooze, no technology, your goals and your gratitude. Then move. Do something physically. It doesn't have to be an hour on the treadmill. Maybe you just do, 10 jumping jacks, or you do something that physically moves your body and gets it started. For me, it's a routine that I have for the first 10 or 15 minutes after I get up, and some exercises, and that I said, okay, got them in. That's another positive thing, that you've done something. I would also say make your bed. There's a whole book and TED Talk all about the military leader who said, if you don't do anything else, at the end of the day, your bed's made. That's one thing that's successful. Okay. Then the other thing that to me is really important, and it's a way to give, is send an encouraging message to someone.
Okay.
Now, you may use your technology for that. Okay, send a text, say, great, it was so wonderful to be with you today. I enjoyed the platform that we had. Just something, maybe it's someone from high school that you haven't talked to in a while. You go, I remember, and that gave me a lift in my step today. Just put it out to the universe. It's amazing what comes back to you. And then personally for me, I spend some time in the Bible each morning. And that's my way of getting my connection of that. And I'm doing that with a group of men who are doing a 30-30 challenge of every morning reading a specific chapter, and then sending comments back about what that chapter meant. So to me, that's a piece. So there's really 6 things in my routine, and I feel like I'm getting off to a good start before anything else comes in.
That's right. No, I like it because often something I've read is that actions, right, lead to emotions. It's so you may wake up and say, I don't feel like doing this, and then but positive actions most of the time will lead to positive emotions. And I think that daily routine is something very practical our listeners can grab onto. Because you're doing something for your mind, your body, and for others, right? All within an hour in the morning.
And you talked kind of about the noise.
That's right.
And that's a way to keep that noise at bay for a while. It's going to come in, right? And I'll tell you that I struggle with it. This isn't like I'm the master at this stuff. It is constant learning and constant, evolution of trying to get better at those things. So one of the things that we had just kind of parked for a second was this commitment to the commitment concept.
Right.
So if you have a goal, you may have, whatever your goal is, and it might, and I believe in establishing crazy wild goals, like as big as you can, that even if you miss it, you've trajectored yourself way out there, right? And then it's going to take a step at a time of committing to the action and the work that will get you there. That's the commitment, not thinking about the goal and how I'm not there yet, but what are the 5 things I need to do every day, or the 3 things I need to do every day towards it. And so let's say it's fitness. And you have a weight goal or a size goal of a belt, and it's maybe it's a 20% number. Well, that's not going to happen tomorrow, but a little bit every day, committed to it, without the cheats and the step backs, and trying to keep that from not happening is really the way you ultimately get to the end of the game.
Right.
So the way I started this thought process was I lost a bet, and my payout of the bet was to run a 10K road race.
Okay.
And I'm not a runner, but I lost the bet, so I had to commit to it, right? So I got the shoes, got the outfit ready to go, went to the end of the driveway at the house. I looked up the street and I said, what can I make it to? And there was a telephone pole.
Okay.
So I ran 100 feet to the first telephone pole, and I said, okay, one more, and one more. And I may have made it to 5, and then walked, and then look, can I make it to another one? So over a period of the training, which was probably 60 days of training to get ready, I went from one telephone pole to ultimately having, a mile, and then a couple miles in. And then, so incrementally, I committed to the breaking it down into baby steps.
Yeah.
And that also, I think, helps mentally try to stay positive, because you have a win every day. Chalk up the win, celebrate the win.
Yeah. No, I think that's, that's so practical. Oftentimes we just look at the daunting goal, and we don't put in those small steps.
Yeah.
So when you're meeting with groups, you've got tremendous accolades on how you've helped groups out. What's kind of your process there? What's your message for a large group?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And so, applying this personally is one thing, but there's a corporation there that says, okay, we've got this massive goal to reach. It might be a sales goal, or it might be a collections goal if it's a follow-up type of company, or it might be launching a new product, or it could be 2 companies coming together, and there's now how do we make this culture come together, right? So one of the things that I do using this same approach, well, I'll certainly tell my story. I mean, I think having some context there, but I always try to do this in what is it that the organization can walk out of that conference room, walk out of that boardroom, and say, it's actionable now.
Yes, okay? Yes, that's what. Yeah, that's.
Otherwise, it's a conversation. It's
that's right.
Motivation.
It's motivational, and there's a place for that. Right. But I think you've got some practical.
Well, some of the folks that are in my circle have coined this term, and I'll use it. It's called an activational speaker, not a motivational speaker. How do we activate this? So here's one of the things I've done in the past, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. So we'll get in a room. Maybe there's the tables set up in a conference room. We've all seen them in the hotels or wherever. And you've got 8 people sitting around a table. And the CEO may instruct me to say, okay, look, we're going to do some work on cultural development. We've got 2 or 3 different companies we've brought together in the last year. We need to come up with what our culture is. Okay, great. So let's write the word culture down. We'll write it vertically. All right. What does it mean to you to be what kind of company, what kind of culture do you want in a company that you're passionate about working for? Okay, this table comes up with their words of spelling out the word culture. This one comes up with another. This one comes up with another. And then we bring it all together. Okay. So it's a way to use an exercise to define something. Same would be true in a sales goal. Okay, what's our theme going to be? Crush it. All right, well, what does crush it mean? Write it down, because you can assign a depth. Crush it can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. Right. But, and I don't want to be, you can put me on the spot now, but what would crush it mean to you? I mean, it would be, create new opportunities. R would be, repeat, repeat, repeat. R, you might be, until we reach the goal. I mean, and each table has something that then you now have something that's come out of a person's emotion to build some passion around that single word for the goal.
No,
culture.
I like that. And it's not just 5 leaders sitting around a table coming up with crush it.
Yeah.
Right? They're actually collectively as a team.
Yeah.
So,
that seems to have drawn some good feedback because folks get engaged, right? It's not the uncomfortable conference chair, which we've all been in, sitting there,
Right.
hearing somebody. You're active.
You're active. No, I like it. So talk to me about personal brand. How does that go into all of this? How do we, as folks starting out in profit, nonprofit, we're starting our career, what's advice you give maybe to your daughters, to folks like that? And then how do we continue that throughout so that we can have the right mindset for if and when opportunities come our way?
Yeah. Well, I think, first of all, whatever you're doing, I do believe you need to find a passion in it.
Okay.
And make that your purpose. So let me back that up a little bit. Passion is one thing. I love art, but I'm not a good painter, right? I'm passionate about art, or I love music. I'm not playing music anymore. But your purpose around that is where I think the energy comes from. So I don't want to just be, I'm passionate about, and it doesn't have that ability for you to really drive to that outcome you're looking for. Does that make sense?
So it's got to be practical.
It's got to be practical.
Right.
There's
got to be some utility behind your passion.
But with that, when you find that, it automatically comes out of you. Like I'm hoping that we're having an interaction here that you can tell I'm really passionate about power of words.
Absolutely.
And that comes that enters the room about a half a second after you do. Right? I mean, people can feel that energy.
Right.
And it's not the, rah-rah, this sort of thing. It's like digging in, showing you're authentic. And that's an overused term as well, I think, often. But who you really are and why it's important to you.
Yeah.
A Simon Sinek approach, right? What is your why? Why does this matter?
Right.
Why are you doing this? Why is it important?
Yeah.
Asking yourself those questions internally and making that part of your life is a real good way to kind of get started, whether you're in your brand, in your career. People know. They can tell if you're fired up about, and it's not just excited and energy, but it's like, I want to make a difference. I think that's what the world's looking for right now, is working with people that really want to bring value that makes a difference.
I agree. Yeah, Oprah says something along those lines, is, your soul, your passion, and then your purpose. You align those two things, then nothing can stop you. There may be hurdles, and there certainly will be, but nothing can stop you.
And I think at that point then, okay, so this is really, Bruce going through a riff and all this kind of things. At that point where you find the obstacle and can say, now I can go find a solution.
Right.
Is where you've really made the turning point there.
That's
I
right.
think. It's like, okay, what can I do? We talked about that. Okay, we've never, this is competition. I don't know. We're getting clobbered, right? They're less expensive. They seem to be delivering more value. We've got this new product we're releasing with this new brand. How do we create ourselves and become revolutionary in the industry somehow, right? It's stepping back and having that purpose and passion, and then saying, bring me the obstacle. Make my stumbling block my stepping stone. Make my roadblock my building block.
That's right.
And it's not easy. We have to fire ourselves up. But I think a morning routine, an expectant, thanks mom and thanks dad, sort of outlook on things, position us in a way to be able to tackle that objection, that obstacle, that opportunity, and bring our best self to it.
Yeah. No, I like it. I think that's, the passion, the purpose, the why, and the morning positive routine, as you said, what certainly sets us all off. Yeah. So you have a very giving nature based on the experience you've been through. So talk to me about that. Talk to me about how you gift your ideas, your book, your program.
Well, thank you for that. And I do strongly believe that, I kind of got myself through this process through the gift of the messages, right? So one of the commitments I made, once we decided we're going to do this, we're going to make this into a book, and we're going to put this out there to the universe and see what happens, is that for every time I'm booked for an engagement, whether it's a keynote or a workshop, or case of books are bought, or a book is purchased, or someone goes out and gets the book, I then donate a copy of the book, one for one, to organizations that are out there helping other people.
Okay.
So I call that the ripple effect. So I don't know who your organization is, or your friend, or your corporation, or your philanthropic organization you work with is. However, if there's a message in this book that can be applied by that group, right, to help them, think of things and look at the world differently, if there's a message in there that helps them, then my cause just expands like that ripple does. So for every time I'm booked for a speaking engagement or any kind of workshop or anything like that, then we've donated. I'm in the healthcare services and technology business as my profession besides this, so I'm in hospitals all the time. So one of my go-tos is, the Family Resource Center at the hospital. I've done a lot of speaking at job fair workshops that have been allowed me to do the same thing, because I was in that scenario. I feel like I'm with my people sometimes when that have been through that. Veterans assistance groups, orphanages. I'm doing some speaking. One of my big concerns right now is human trafficking, and that's a whole nother conversation that we can have. And there's some amazing organizations here in Atlanta, and I've had the opportunity to do some workshops for some of the folks that are in their programs, that are being taught new skills, are being kind of helped to bring themselves back to where they want to be in life. And so those are the kinds of things that I look for to get back.
No, I think it's great, and Bruce, I think what you're doing is encouraging. I definitely believe you're making your community, your world a better place, and I certainly believe that there's practical steps to do exactly. You don't have to have come from your circumstances of very positive mother based on her circumstance or life's circumstance, and then your dad who was a wordsmith. You've taken that and said you too can change your outlook and your mental mindset on life.
Well, I understand how fortunate I was in that scenario. In fact, some of the hardest talks and presentations and speaking engagements to do are when I'm trying to relate to an organization where that hasn't been their environment growing up. Or their working situation, or their socioeconomic. However, one of the gifts that I've tried to absorb in is we all have a place we start. And that's all that is. Right? Everyone's situation is different, but how can we launch out of? Sometimes being in the deep end of the swimming pool at the bottom is the best place to be, because you get the most leverage to push off the bottom. For me, it was just a job loss. There are things it wasn't. We don't, I mean, if you think of other kind of catastrophic kinds of things, I was just blessed to be given a gift to kind of think about it, and then the assignment to write it down and to do something positive with it.
No, I think that's great. So how can folks get in touch with you, Bruce? What's the best way?
My website is the title of the book, Above the Chatter, Our Words Matter. We've got a contact me link there. I'm active on social media. Instagram is a good place. Above the Chatter, Bruce Pulver. And on Facebook, I have a book page as well, which is the same, Above the Chatter, Bruce Pulver. Through the page on the website, it's an info page. Shoot me a message. I stay on that pretty actively, and would love to engage with anyone who sees this having value. I'd love to have a conversation.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. And folks, this is Great More with the Coleman Group. And please, if you're struggling in any way, as most of us are, please reach out to Bruce, and I'm sure he will give you some practical advice. At least he'll lighten the mood.
All right.
Thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.